I don't know how to introduce you.
We just met in the street. And
we just met on the street. We're like, that guy looks smart.
Where do you want me looking?
Right there.
Into the camera. I represent the overwhelming majority of Israeli public opinion who seeks to divide the city and have a Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem, the capital of an independent Palestinian state. And in that sense, I'm highly represented. Does that answer your question? The late, great Faisal Husseini was the national leader of the Palestinians in East Jerusalem.
You know him, right?
Yeah. Faisal was one of the great people I know.
He's the Prince of Jerusalem.
Absolutely. In any event, when we would rush over to a house that's being taken over by settlers at 3 o'clock in the morning, Faisal would say to me, Danny, you Israelis are creating facts on the ground, but don't forget for 1 minute, we the Palestinians are the facts. There are two national collectives in Jerusalem, one of which is politically empowered, the other is permanently politically disempowered, and neither side is going anywhere. At the moment, this city is based on a fictitious myth of Jerusalem, the United capital of Israel, that will never be redivided, which is one word and a noun, and you have to be able to recite it 7 times in a row in order to get the Republican nomination for president.
Whoa.
Say that again. Say that again. Go ahead.
Jerusalem, the United capital of Israel, that will never be redivided, which is one word and a noun, and you have to be able to recite it 7 times in a row in order to get the Republican nomination.
We have people that watch this show, and they're not going to get what I didn't get what you said. You have
Jerusalem,
to
the undivided capital of Israel, that will never be redivided, which is one word and a noun, and you have to be able to recite that 7 times in a row in order to get the Republican nomination for president.
Jerusalem, the United capital of Israel, that will never be redivided, which is one word and a noun, and you have to be able to recite it 7 times in a row in order to get the Republican nomination.
In any event, that is a hollow fiction. Jerusalem today is more contested than ever before. It is more binational than ever before. From an Israeli perspective, the birth of an Israeli child is a simcha, which is Hebrew Yiddish for a joy.
Yeah.
And the birth of a Palestinian child is a demographic problem.
Okay.
It didn't work. The Palestinians have held on. They've gone from 25% of the population to 40% of the population. This is a binational city, and it's an inherently unsustainable binational city because a house divided against itself cannot stand, half occupied and half free. I'm your occupier.
Danny, what does that mean? I mean, Jerusalem is getting more divided, as you said, while the country, the Palestine Israel, is not getting more divided.
It's
Israel
getting
is
more
annexing
interlinked.
Exactly.
It's getting more entangled, which would be the word.
Look, Jerusalem is more complicated than any of the ideological point scoring that you're going to make. Jerusalem is divided, it's undivided, it's one city, it's two cities, it's also three, it's an ultra-Orthodox city, it's a Palestinian city, it's an Israeli city, it's all of these together. It's full of contradictions. I can tell you the following. We are connected like Siamese twins in a lot of ways. There are a lot of hidden veins and arteries that connect us together more than meets the eye. On the other hand, in some ways, the city is more integrated than before, but in most ways, it is more divided than any point since '67. We walk different streets. We shop in different shops. We study different curricula. We watch different TV. Sometimes. We speak a different language. We go to different schools. Don't give me this united bullshit.
You believe in 2 states, which nowadays I think has no more.
I'm on the endangered species list.
It's not sexy.
I'm on the endangered species list. Let's put it that
For the
way.
2.
Okay, let me put it this way.
But
okay?
why? My question would be, if everything is going, I mean, things don't seem to be going to the 2 states.
You're asking the question, I think, that should be preoccupying Israelis and Palestinians.
Get preoccupied.
Preoccupy, occupy, and post-occupy. But that's the word. Israel cannot survive over time as a perpetually occupying power. And I cannot envisage a way that occupation ends except by means of a border. I wish it were otherwise. We can destroy that possibility. We may have destroyed that possibility. Destroying that possibility does not create an alternative. But having said that, the day that border goes up, it begins to unravel. Give Jerusalem 10 years, 20 years after we separate and level the playing field and end occupation, one state possibilities.
Where these borders would be?
Exactly. I mean,
It's
that'll not be in my front yard, man.
It's real simple. Look, we got a beagle at
Not
home.
through the Armenian quarter. We're very small. Okay, we don't want any wall there.
Where does the police put its checkpoints on Yom Kippur when Palestinian Jerusalem is sealed from Israeli Jerusalem?
They put it on the bridge.
30 points, and
Yeah.
you connect the dots, you see the border.
And the settlements?
I believe that it is, it's possible for the settlements, the large settlement neighborhoods, to reign under Israeli, to become under Israeli sovereignty in the framework of a land swap. That principle has been established. It was accepted in large part by the Palestinian negotiators. Having said that, the 2,700 settlers who are living implanted in the biblically motivated settlements in the Muslim quarter, the Armenian quarter, Silwan, Sheikh Jarrah will have to be extracted. Can they remain? Absolutely. They can remain under
2,700.
Palestinian sovereignty if we open the door to a Palestinian right of return. We're going back to the ancestral land of Israel. You're going back to Palestine. You want to pay that price? Ahlan wa sahlan.
But the Arabization of the settlements. French Hill, Pisgat, Se'ev,
Okay.
Gilo. Like I know a few that live in Gilo.
Okay, let me give you the statistic.
There's a trend.
Let me give you a statistic. I don't think it's a trend.
All right.
I think it's a phenomenon. The statistics are there are approximately 343,000 Palestinians living in the current borders of Jerusalem. Of them, about 3,100 are living in the large settlement neighborhoods of Jerusalem. Those are Palestinian Jerusalemites and not Israeli citizens, Palestinian citizens of Israel who moved there. You go to French Hill, it's mostly Palestinian citizens of Israel. Now, they're moving there, the same phenomenon. Tensions go up, they look for places elsewhere desperately. The reason they're moving there is we have not allowed construction for the Palestinian sector. We have a very curious approach to this. We believe that if we do not allow the Palestinians to build legally, you will lose interest in sex and childbearing and take up chess. There's no indication that that is succeeding. But if I'm a young Palestinian with 2 kids, I can't afford to live in Beit Hanina or in Shuafat. The old city is overflowing at it seems. I have no choice. Now, even then, you're talking about less than 1% of the Palestinian population. You can have more than one dimension to your soul and personality. I believe that Nir Hassan is pointing out something interesting. It's happening, but it is not making the young Palestinians less Palestinian.
Sure.
For me, the most exhilarating thing that's happening in Jerusalem today is the emergence of a young generation of Palestinians in their 20s and 30s who are more Palestinian, more sophisticated, better educated than their parents, but also more Israeli. And there's no contradiction.
So we
And
can
they're the
divide.
future.
They're the future.
They're the future.
But then,
I'm a dinosaur.
okay. But wait a minute. But where would they fit in your idea of a 2-state? Because then they would not want that.
So their
They would
cultural
want-
their cultural identity is strongly, or national identity is strongly Palestinian. Yet their political identity is Israeli.
No, their political identity is Palestinian as well. They have Israeli skills.
But then where would they fit in the 2-state? In like this, in the division that you're trying to get to.
They're not going to participate in the division.
They're not going to
Anything
participate
they-
within the division. They probably would not want.
My guess is that these are the people, from my experience. I don't want to speak for them. I'm the Israeli occupier, okay? But my
You're a white man.
Yeah, I'm the colonizer. From my perspective, they don't talk 1-state, 2-state. They talk the language of ending occupation and rights,
Quality.
and etc.
But isn't that what's 1-state?
Now, I don't oppose that. I just don't see how it can be done except by means of a border. I want to be practical about this. Now, the minute that becomes accessible, I believe they'll buy in. Until then, there are 2 poles that I observe in the Palestinian psyche in Jerusalem: resist and adapt. And there are times and places where you resist Israeli occupation, and there are times where the demands of life require you to adapt. And
Okay, then.
I fully accept that.
Sure, but the Palestinian slogan is resistance is existence. So actually, resistance and adaptation is becoming one.
Didn't
in
Gandhi
fact.
say that?
Now, a Palestinian who goes every day and work in Israel, and you're saying he's kind of have Israeli skills, he has transcended, or she have transcended his nationalism in a sense. I mean, they're still feeling Palestinian, language-wise, culture-wise, identity-wise, but they downplayed their nationalism. And if that's a true assumption, you don't think?
I don't believe so.
Problematic though. It's a bit problematic for us to be seen as an equal footing when you are the occupier.
Absolutely, which I believe the existential imperative of this generation to Israelis and Palestinians is ending occupation. That is my life's work.
But
isn't the key of being a Jerusalemite? I mean, really, like, let's just go into dark room. And
what is the key of being a Jerusalemite?
The key of being Jerusalemite is understand.
Is hating
to understand. No, well, is to understand these contradictions, but also the gene of Jerusalem is this is a multicultural, multi-layered city which everyone has something on it and has different flags over it and so on. I sounds like a Jerusalemite.
You know, I'm a kibbutzer, I'm marginal, I dabble, but I have one expertise. I understand the mechanics of occupation, where to oil it, what stops it, what slows it down, what accelerates it. That's my life's work. And I cannot see occupation ending except by means of leveling the playing field, and that means I no longer rule over you, you'll rule over yourself in the framework of a Palestinian state. But I agree with you. Can I drop another name? Kamal Husseini, the head of the Bank of Palestine, says we Israelis and Palestinians have to get divorced, if only to get married again the next morning.
We're in a Catholic marriage, man. We can't get divorced.
What is this emphasis on? Okay, we need a border. A border will solve a border.
I thought
the whole thing is not to have a border.
I want you guys, 10 years from now, not to live under occupation.
We want tomorrow to stop.
I know. If we're up, but I don't see of how to get to a situation where I no longer rule over you without the divorce.
Yeah, but we are the 21st century. You will rule over me economically as well. I mean, it's having East and West Jerusalem. East is a very marginalized, kind of disconnected, probably poorer than West Jerusalem.
It's probably not exactly in like the divorce case, because the wife gets a lot of things, the husband is left with nothing.
Again,
it's probably not the best relationship. I mean, in a sense, it's another form of occupation. Probably will develop after.
You're pointing out something that is extremely important, and this is something that I dealt with in the framework of permanent status negotiation. Every Palestinian who was under Israeli rule will have a work visa for his or her life. The border crossings will have to accommodate the 35,000 Palestinian people, mostly men, some women, who cross the border. And they have to do so seamlessly and with dignity. And 5 years after that happens, that border will disappear.
So what's this border will be like? Is it like a concrete border? It's like...
We've actually done mock-ups, and you know, it's impossible to create a border without scarring the city. But we're certainly not talking about the Berlin Wall. Okay. And there are ways of and one of the things
glass transparent kind of
also you know, there are
you don't want to see what's on the other side.
There are ways of doing that mitigates the damage, that doesn't completely get rid of it. But one of the important things is, having worked on the future border regime, we from the get-go are allowing for that border to disappear. Create a border that can become porous and that ultimately can disappear. And do that from the beginning, because an agreement between Israelis and Palestinians is not the end of a story. It's the beginning of real relations between Israelis and Palestinians as equals in the city.
We want to man the borders. You know what? You want a border? Let us.
We get the Armenians to be the guards.
We'll make so much money. My God, man, that would be the best thing for us. But look,
stick to pottery.
We
will sell them on the border.
Armenian tiled border. That would be nice.
Armenian tiled border.
Armenian tiled border.
No, but I am still against the idea of a border. I have to. I have to say it. Like I don't think it will solve things, and because it's based on an assumption that you're making. You're saying, I believe the Israelis and the Palestinians are Siamese twins, and they have the arteries and the veins, and that 10 years after the border goes up, I assume it will come down. I'm not going to base it on an assumption that
it might just become even stronger.
Because look, people will make a lot of money, and those parties that make money on through that border, they might want it to stay up.
Will protect the
Because it's not like the Soviets or the Americans said, you know what, we want the wall to come down. Nobody said they want the wall to come down. People wanted to stay up.
So what's your advice for the Palestinians now? What should we do? We want a good Jewish advice from a good Jewish man.
I refuse to do that.
Why?
I refuse to do that. If somebody
You're an
comes
expert. You're an expert in
no,
Jerusalem.
no, because it is colonial and condescending for me to assume. Now, people come to me and say, tell the Palestinians to vote in municipal elections. Why the hell is it any of my business using my white privilege as an occupier to try and convince Palestinians? No.
Okay. I'll rephrase the question. What would be useful to be done to slow down the Israeli annexation and Israelization and Judaization of Jerusalem? Self-empowerment.
That is, look, the Palestinian collective in East Jerusalem suffered a number of blows during the 2000s. The first of them was the death of Faisal Husseini, who was really the last credible leader across Jerusalem, and there's never been a real replacement. Palestinian society is atomized in many ways, and Israel didn't create atomization of Palestinian political culture. Look at Ramallah. But we are making sure we're doing everything we can to make sure that you remain atomized and to crush political expression. What you see in places like Wadi Khilwa and in Sheikh Jarrah are young Palestinians organizing, determining their own community agenda. Build your own community agenda. You're a collective in anticipation of running your own lives.
Okay, wait.
And you're not going to be able to run your own lives. We're going to do everything in our power to stop you. Resist. That's resistance. Build your own collective society.
Where do we wrap this conversation up? Because I still do have a problem with the idea that to solve the injustices that do occur in Jerusalem, the reality that we live in,
the crime, man,
the criminal reality that we live under.
That suits me best.
In order to solve that, I just don't think a border is this. I don't want to live, even if it's 10 years, I don't want to live with a border that goes in the middle of the city.
Neither do I, but I don't want to live as an occupier, and you don't want to live as an occupier.
It's a choice between the worst and
but is it not the choice of the future, the young ones, to decide how they want to live? Because we are the future, no?
Let us choose the future.
Let us choose the future.
We're talking. Look, Jerusalem produces three things consistently throughout the millennia: kitsch, zealotry, and prophecy. I try to avoid those, okay? You might be right. All I do know is if I want to end occupation, I don't know of any other way of doing it than a border. I don't like that. I wish it were otherwise. I have it. Show me a way that you can do it. I'm more than willing to consider it. Nobody's done it yet.
Danny, we had a huge access to your brain. Let's access your heart department now. What does Jerusalem mean to you? What is the best thing in Jerusalem that you really like? What's the meaning of Jerusalem to you?
There's a Talmudic statement, in the Torah, you can turn it over and it's all there. Jerusalem is the microcosm. It's where civilizations meet. You literally live where the tectonic plates of the Arab world and the West meet. Your street, where Judaism, Christianity, and Islam
don't tell them my street name. Don't name drop that.
Meet up together in 1 square kilometer. God, there are malls. There are malls in the United States that have more floor space than the entire old city. God, if God has an area code and a zip code, it's local Jerusalem. It's all here. This is the most. I don't think it's a beautiful city. I don't think it's a likable city. If you don't love Jerusalem, you won't like it. Jerusalem is the most charismatic place on the planet.
That's why I usually like Jerusalem when I'm drunk. Like I go out at night, then I get drunk, and then I'm like, I like Jerusalem. It's not bad. It's not
your
bad.
Brain starts to.
But then you wake up the next day, you're like, all right, let's give me another shot.
And where do you see Jerusalem in, say, 10 and another 50 years?
I don't know. 10 years I'm pessimistic. I am politically pessimistic. I am historically optimistic. I think things will get worse before they get better. I think that over time, we don't have any alternative. Israelis and Palestinians want to have good lives for their kids, and the current trajectory will not allow good lives for our kids without addressing the inequities of occupation in Jerusalem. But that's going to take more than 10 years. Look, I'm already working on what to do once we get rid of Trump and Netanyahu to make things better. Inshallah, God willing, may it please the Lord. Bezrat Hashem. But I'm going to work on it. But we're in for the long haul.
We have seen many divine interventions in Jerusalem, so we might see the occupation ending by divine intervention.
He's taken a leave of absence, or she's taken a leave of absence.
Well, on that note, where we blame the woman for our problems.
Oh no,
she's taking.
I was talking about God. Come on.
All right, I think I'm okay with this conversation. I think is it a good end?
It is.
Do you have hope?
It's a different conversation.
Let's let the Palestinian have the last thing.
It's a different conversation. I don't know. I'm still romanticizing about the idea that Jerusalem can be a metaphor for coming together and for moving. It can set the scene. Look, it can be an example of coming together and removing division and removing borders and removing. So
since I'm the occupier, I'm going to put in. We've been working on. We've been working on something.
But you can't decide as an occupier. You can't decide your end. We have to decide your end.
You're right.
It's our decision to decide how we're going to end the occupation.
Occupation is going to end in an agreement between Israelis and Palestinians, and it's going to require both sides.
Israel is never going to agree on how to end the occupation.
But I just say bring the British back.
Anyway, there's one thing. There's one thing that we're working on. A couple of years ago, the Ministry of Tourism, Israeli, put out a map of the old city, and it had 57 sites in the legend of that map, 52 of which were Jewish, 4 were Christian, 1 church, 1 Muslim site, and it wasn't Al-Aqsa. So on the official map of Israel, there was no Al-Aqsa. It's been pulled. We shame them into pulling it. We've put together a database of all of the sacred, religious, and heritage sites in Jerusalem. There are hundreds of Jewish sites, more than 100. There are more than 170 Muslim sites. There are 265 Christian sites. It is a wealth. So that reality exists. It is being defiled, desecrated, and undermined by occupation. Take away the occupation, Jerusalem will flourish.
Thank you, Danny, for that vision. We really hope that soon, even before editing this video, the occupation will be end.
I don't think we're editing this video. It's too long. We're just gonna.
Thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And wish you the best in your job and in your studies. Thanks for the Jerusalem Hotel for hosting us today.
Yes, that was the last name drop.
Yeah. And thanks for our audience, male and females.
Yeah, and the binary ones.
Yeah,
See you guys.
Thank you.